from past to present. In the past, there were some routes along which people traded their goods, but transportation with horses, steam trains, or sailing ships was very slow. So people tried to find better ways to trade. Christopher Columbus wanted to find a faster route to Asia, but found the Americas instead. With improvements in transportation and the development of nations, international trade became a whole new matter. Competition between countries to control commerce sometimes led to war. However, in the 21st century, globalization has opened a path to world peace. Increased connections between countries are helping to create a new global culture. Relationships between countries are affected by many things, including international trade. International trade allows countries to get things they need from other countries. It also allows them to profit by selling their products and services. This promotes peaceful relations rather than war. Nowadays, most countries trade with each other, so we call it global trade. Global trade favors peace. International trade increases understanding among cultures. It also increases cooperation between nations. Producers and consumers are closely connected and want to trade in peace, even though all types of trade conflicts appear every day. Nations prefer to peacefully discuss their differences to make better trade deals in a safe, predictable environment. Countries that depend on each other for trade are less likely to fight for fear of cutting economic ties. How international trade happens. When countries sell goods to other countries, we say they export them. When countries buy things from elsewhere, we say they import them. Every country sets its own rules about what their people can import or export. Some countries heavily tax all or some of their imports. Other countries tax exports, and still others have few or no taxes. Each country's customs department controls the imports and exports and the taxes people need to pay on them. Free trade means the ability to trade without too many restrictions. Some countries welcome free trade while others do not. High taxes on imports or exports, or prohibitions to import, are common instruments countries use to restrict the trade of some goods. This is often to protect domestic industry from competition. It saves jobs and creates income domestically. Blocking trade is also a means used to punish a country that acts against some common shared values. For example, the U.S. may block trade with a country that abuses the human rights of its citizens or sponsors terrorism. Trade restrictions often make things difficult for citizens. When free trade among countries is allowed, national economies and citizens can benefit. Changing transportation and communication. Transportation has evolved as global trade has increased. Trucks, trains, ships, and planes carry all sorts of goods all over the world. It is easy to shop online. Through the internet, people can sell almost anything and send it almost anywhere. Some individuals and businesses are able to sell goods and services directly, without costly storefronts. The internet is also a means of offering services like banking and education. Even many government services, such as driver's license renewals, are online these days. Capital is also exported and imported through the internet. Bank transfers, money wires, and credit cards allow quick and reliable payments for imports and exports. The challenges. Goods and services traded over the internet have a few unique challenges. Different countries have different laws and regulations. A candle made in India, for example, may not need a label when sold, but that same candle sold in England may need to include a warning label. The seller needs to be aware of the laws in the customer's country. Reliability and predictability are also important. Products need to arrive on time. Customs papers, taxes, and documentation all need to be completed properly for this to happen. Selling and buying in the world. International trade sometimes becomes more difficult because of high tariffs or distance. High tariffs and trade restrictions discourage exporters and importers. Consumers and businesses often oppose governments that exhibit too much control and do not let them trade as they wish. Sometimes, local manufacturers want to be protected by the government. They ask for high tariffs on cheaper or better foreign products that could compete with theirs. The greatest cost global trade faces besides tariffs and protectionism is the cost of transportation. Ships and planes have become increasingly larger in order to carry more goods at a lower cost. Top trade countries. Some of the top exporters and importers in the world are China, the European Union, the United States, Japan, Germany, South Korea, France, the United Kingdom, and India. Every year, the United States' shipping trade alone transports goods worth more than $6 trillion. In 2015, over 17 million containers were imported into the U.S. Free trade areas. A free trade area is a region in which member countries have signed a trade agreement to lower or remove import restrictions and tariffs. In a free trade area, the countries involved can trade goods and services at a lower cost. Countries within free areas are partners and friends and live in harmony. In spite of occasional problems, numerous successful free trade areas have been established over the years, such as the European Union, the NAFTA, North American Free Trade Area, and more recently, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The World Trade Organization, WTO, helps governments to set common rules for all. The comparative advantage. When countries join a free area, companies with high local production costs cannot ask for tariffs to protect them. Therefore, such companies are more likely to specialize in what they can manufacture or sell at a higher quality and lower cost. Companies look for their comparative advantages. Can you imagine the world trading only the best products everywhere? This would make better quality goods more accessible for everyone. This is why some people want to make the whole world a global free trade area. Some people complain that small or poor countries cannot compete with powerful countries, nor have many comparative advantages. This is true, but it is also true that technology, education, and progress can make them competitive in the future. Global trade makes global businesses. International trade ensures cooperation between companies when they manufacture parts of a product in different places. For example, a car's engine may be made in Germany, but the body made in Mexico. This enhances the comparative advantages of the two countries. It can also aid small or poor countries to compete with the more powerful. Global trade also creates huge interlinked global markets and networks of interlinked companies. These global businesses are funded through a global stock market where investors from any country can participate. This means that it is often the decisions of these businesses, not governments, that determine global trade policy, which in turn can lead to peace. International rules and free trade. Consumers and businesses are losing a sense of borders. Even people living within closed borders still have access to knowledge and products through the Internet. Many people hope that the world's more controlling governments will embrace modernity and put aside their religious or ideological differences. Global businesses believe this would benefit governments and individuals. Advances in global trade and peace are strengthened in other ways too. International rules for the quality of products are set by the International Organization for Standardization, ISO. Political relationships among countries are managed by the United Nations, UN. And financial stability is a goal of the International Monetary Fund, IMF. All these contribute to global trade within peaceful contexts. A global free trade area and peace. Many believe that, in the end, we cannot achieve world peace until all restrictions on borders are removed globally and countries choose to cooperate rather than compete. During a speech in 2000, Nelson Mandela said, "If globalization is to create real peace and stability across the world, it must be a process benefiting all. It must not allow the most economically and politically powerful countries to dominate and submerge the countries of the weaker and peripheral regions. It should not be allowed to drain the wealth of smaller countries." Throughout history, when countries and cultures openly learned from each other, great achievements were made. Will this be true for free trade?